Good evening. So now we are into the North East Ladies Hacking Society OWASP Top 10. And tonight we're focusing on A6, which is security misconfiguration. So what would life be without a small sketch of what we are going to be talking about tonight? And that is right in front of you there with security incident and security misconfiguration. Now, I was having a look when I was putting these slides together for something that might maybe tell us the story of what it is without saying too many words. And I think this is kind of perfect. So we've got person on ladder, balanced on a football and books. It's not a circus. It looks like someone's kind of just got a bit carried away, and there's a little tinker coming along there to kick the football away. And what will happen is she'll fall off and it'll be a right old nightmare. So there we go. There is misconfiguration in a nutshell. Right, let's have a look into the deep dive of what it is just before we head into Mel's session. So you can all read this, so I'm not going into the detail of what it says. This is taken literally verbatim from the OWASP Top 10. This is number 6 out of the top 10, so middle ground roughly. The reason why I personally think it's there, and again, talking from experience, it's because it's the little things that you can get so easily wrong. All the things that are going to be exploited by hackers, or, well, yeah, there's no other better word for it, I think, is the easy low-hanging fruit. So it'll be the little bits of admin which are not tidied up behind. So a couple of examples on there are access to default accounts. So say admin might be on there. If someone's going to have a go at an exposed page and they try and log in with those credentials, that would be, yes, that's a good shout, Alice, threat actors. Hackers is a boring term, isn't it? They will try the easy low-hanging fruit, and they will try and they'll probably succeed. So the best thing is when you're doing builds or configuration or whatever you happen to be doing, in a technical sense, just make sure you tidy after the little easy things. It's not always the things that'll stare you in the face and be dead easy to go, yep, I must remember to do that. It can be something that you go back into and you need to tweak to make sure that the platform or the product works. But those are always the easy things to forget about and not tidy behind. A few examples there, which will allow for unauthorized access and will help you, a threat actor, find out the easiest route into your application, your stack, whatever it might be. It's not specific necessarily, although web application is what we're talking about in terms of OWASP. It's not just web application that can be impacted by it. It could be anything. As I say, the admin account is pretty much 101 for the easy thing that you can tidy up, but also one of the biggest things that will be left behind. If you think about with firewalls and rules, one pesky little thing that will creep in there when you are making a config change or whether you're building a rule set from scratch is an any rule, because it helps things work. You can work out what is passing through the firewall, etc. You can look at traffic. It's very simple, and you can understand what the system needs to get that access and get up and running. What is easy to do is you celebrate that something's been delivered, you celebrate it's working, you sort of dust yourself down, get the medals and cigars out, but the crucial thing of leaving that any rule can really blow things apart in a security sense. Excuse me, we've got the scrap metal man outside. Hopefully it's not too noisy for the guys on the call. So tiny low impact in terms of technical. The impact on leaving those sort of things untidied up is pretty huge, and it'll be the easy things that get exploited. I'm sure we've all seen on the news, on the register, reported about, for example, a leaky S3 bucket, and that generally is down to some little admin fault, something not being hardened. So when I talk about what hardening is, it's just to make sure that you haven't left anything unnecessary open, port, or your pages with access, some pages that may reveal a little bit more than you would like to share about the platform that the program's running on, etc. And those are the things that you really want to keep as private as possible. So when you have a threat actor trying to exploit vulnerability or do some reconnaissance on your kit or your site, don't give them a leg up. Don't let them know what vulnerabilities might be there within that platform stack. So that's a super high level intro into what some of the misconfigs can be. Here's some examples of, is the application vulnerable? So I've mentioned hardening there. Mentioned some of the ports and services or pages that might be left open. When you look at hardening, I guess the biggest rule of thumb for me is, what does that page, that application, that piece of technology need to run? What is the black and white? This must be enabled to make sure that it's an effective piece of technology. Anything else just doesn't need to be there. As soon as you make sure that you've got a decent build, and there's a couple of links that you can find through the OWASP page to build standards, then use them as a guide to how you would configure various bits of kit. So there's all sorts on there, from Exchange to file shares, etc., etc. So there's plenty of guides out there. It's a really good thing. There's a lot of support, a lot of guidance. Just make sure you use them. Sometimes it's a bit overwhelming depending on what the product type is, but generally I think we're in a pretty rich community to help with that sort of guidance. Some of the little bits and pieces that I've covered already, how to avoid it, back to that hardening, back to that testing. How do you make sure that it is as locked down as you hope it will be? Try and automate it, because if you're literally going through setting by setting, config by config, it's going to be a pretty slow process. So if you can apply a group policy or similar to make sure that you affect the gold build using the hardening process, then that's going to take some of the pain away. And then it's just a bit of a peer check or a cross check to make sure that everything's tied down as much as it should be. I suppose to make it sort of simple, if you think about a house or maybe a garden shed, let's use that. A garden shed, you definitely need a door. If you're storing stuff in it, you don't necessarily need a window. Do you need anything to allow multiple people to go in, or are you happy with a padlock with one key? If that's all you need, you don't need shelves in there or anything like that. Why would you put stuff in there? You might hope you might need it for the future, but literally if you're going to store your bike or your, I don't know, lawnmower in there, you don't need anything more than space, somewhere secure, somewhere that's going to keep everything dry. Jobs are good, and anything else is just surplus to requirements. So just use that same sort of approach. What do you actually need to make it functional? Anything that you need in future state, add it then. Don't do it for the future if you don't know it's going to happen. Scalability is important, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about config. So there's a few bits on there. There's some attack scenarios. So one of the ones I've mentioned already, scenario 3, is there something that's going to give you detailed error messages, which give a leg up to threat actors who may be looking for a route into that particular technology stack. So if it was struts, for example, there's a whole host of vulnerabilities available to be exploited. Sometimes it's tricky to patch. It's usually quite a difficult platform to manage. I'm sure someone would love to tell us otherwise, but that's the experience I've had. And it might be that actually that just gives, instead of the attacker having 100 things to try, they can probably narrow it down to 20 or even less. So it just makes that time to attack a little bit quicker and a little bit more targeted. Sample applications as well in scenario 1, I think that's a really common one that I've certainly seen, is you might have default accounts left behind, which actually should have been deleted if not in use. Specific admin accounts being created which are named to individuals or stored in a privileged access management solution. It might be something like, let's think, if you have an Exchange server, for example, you probably don't need to have Internet Explorer installed on it. So let's get rid of that. It might be in the default build when you build one from scratch. But let's make sure when you apply the gold build, you take those little things off. There's a little bit on cloud, which I think Kimberly, you might cover a little bit later on. But there's a few little examples which hopefully bring to life a little bit about misconfiguration and how they could be exploited. So I'll pause for any questions while Mel gets ready to launch the demo. Bit of a whirlwind one, but hopefully it's kind of set the scene a little bit for what we'll be covering and some of the things that Mel will be bringing to life in the Juice Shop demo.
Cool. Thanks, Catherine. So yeah, we should probably be covering some of the things that you talked about in your examples, hopefully. I guess I'll just say a little bit about myself for people who might not have been to one of our talks before or not met me, because I usually just do the Zen. So I've been in security for 2 years now, working as SOC, so totally blue team, don't really do much offensive security. So this was new to me. Hopefully it's new to some of you in the audience as well, as you demonstrated by your claps and party poppers. Obviously the more experienced people, this is probably pretty easy. You might have seen it before, but it's always nice to recap, I find, and everybody starts somewhere. So I hope you enjoy. For these demos, I'll just be using Juice Shop. So I'm an easygoing person. I like an easy time. I'm not going to be using additional tooling. If you look up some of the solutions, people do like to use additional tooling like Burp Suite, etc., to do captures and stuff. I'm not going to do that because these are quite simple, I want to say, challenges, but they kind of demonstrate they're simple, but think how easy it is, how simple it is for a hacker to take advantage of these things in the real world. So yeah, I'll share my screen. Oh, that was a nice echo cap. Right, so I'm going to be launching it from Heroku. We'll put the links, etc., in the chat at the end of the session. It's so easy. I'd put off downloading Juice Shop for so long, and I found a very lovely video from Dee, who shows how easy it is to download it. It's great. I've already downloaded the instance, but really all you do is kind of go to heroku.com. There's a link to directly download the Juice Shop, give it a name, click the install button, and it takes about 10 minutes to install, and you're set to go, really. You don't have to kind of download any extras, unless you want them, of course, but this is all quite easy going. So that's just kind of the front page when you've already downloaded Juice Shop, and it gives you a nice history of your activity, etc. I'll open it, and hopefully it opens nicely.
Is this all free, Mel?
It is all free. Obviously, by looking at that page, you obviously can pay for add-ons and extra things, but I haven't. So, but it's a good app for it to be free. To be honest, I know people who aren't even in security who use it. So testers, devs like to use it. It's a useful tool, kind of all across IT, and it doesn't usually take this long to load, so I'm a little bit worried. But yeah, but I won't be using any additional tooling, as I mentioned. It'll just be things that you can find in developer tools and just by using websites.
Was it easy to set up?
Very, yeah. So as I said before, you just go to heroku.com. You do have to make an account there, sign up, select Juice Shop, and it's just a one button situation, and it does all of the build for you, and you can watch the build as well if you're interested in that, to see how it works. And it takes about 10 minutes, and then once it's there, you just click open app and it's ready to go. It's really easy. Didar actually mentioned something to me earlier today, which I didn't realize. Apparently after a month or so, it can wipe your progress on Juice Shop. So maybe if you're kind of wanting to do all of the challenges over a period of time and you want to keep a track, maybe keep an eye on it. But I'm not sure. I only just downloaded it. So this is a front page. See, Juice Shop. It's a shop that sells juice. Obviously, since they've had it, they've added on different things, more products, etc., probably for the different challenges. So we'll give it a go. the first thing it asks you to do, it's not going to show me the tutorial because I've already done it. But it is to find the scoreboard, which will take you to the challenges, which is always handy. I'm hoping I can move this. There we go. So I don't like that side actually. So to find the scoreboard, how would you do that? You could, if you really wanted to, if it's quite insecure, take a punt at maybe type in score at the end of the URL or scoreboard or anything you might think it might be. I guess that a hacker would do that. People have done obviously /.admin and got themselves to admin login pages. So why not? I'm not going to do that because I already know the answer and that would be cheating. So I'm going to do it another way, which looks a little bit more impressive. So not bookmarks. We're going to use tools. I hope I didn't have any weird bookmarks in there when that flashed up. So, okie dokie. And if we go to the elements, so hopefully we'd like to think that somewhere there would be kind of something that would mention a scoreboard. So I always like to look in the sources as well because that says a lot about a website. I guess in other websites, it would not show as many sources. Obviously, it's not exact to real life. It's a very insecure web page because it's a playground. It's not going to be totally hardened to make everything really difficult. But it's quite good. I'm not a coder at all. I just find it quite tedious. I don't like it. But I do find DevTools is really handy, even in my day-to-day job where I don't do coding at all. But there's a lot of nice things to find in here. So if we're looking for a scoreboard, I quite like the idea of a search function. I just like to make life easier for myself. Why would I struggle? So we could maybe look for scoreboard. So it's got a word there. But what we're kind of more looking for is something that would give us a hint that there's a path for a scoreboard. So we could just kind of tick through and hope for the best. I'm not going to sit here and do this all night for you. But let's see if I can get to it quickly. So, there we go. So it only took 10 clicks, so it's not too hard. It's got the path and it's got scoreboard. So by that deduction, I think it doesn't take a genius. Maybe we should type at the end of the URL score-board and we'll see what happens. And it's cheating because it's showing my history that I've already done it, but it's fine. And there we go. We're on the scoreboard. So pretty cool. This is where all the challenges are. This really got me when I first went through. Usually, I think when you kind of click on filters, when I click on the filter, it should include the stuff. But oh, it is doing it. They've fixed it. Well, that's made me out to be a liar. Last time I was on this, if you clicked the filters, it would actually get rid of the challenges associated with that filter, and that threw me for a good few minutes until I just started clicking random stuff. So they've fixed that. So well done, Juice Shop. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I dreamt it. But okay, that would have been a nice helpful hint, but whatever. So we'll take that. Interesting. That's all. So as you can filter by the OWASP categories, which is really handy when you're doing something tailored to this, or maybe for your work, or maybe you just want to learn about something very specific. So we'll be looking at security misconfiguration, as we all should know by now. There's 4, as you're rated by difficulty. We'll just be doing error handling and depreciated interface, mainly because some of them need prerequisites, and some of them need additional tooling, which I don't have, and I haven't really tried them yet. I did have a go at the kittens. I thought I'd solved it, and I didn't, so I didn't want to embarrass myself further by doing it live. So I guess we can do the error handling one first, because that's the easiest. So it's provoke an error, it's neither gracefully nor consistently handled. You might think, why is that a thing? Why are we bothered? Well, error codes and error messages say a lot about a site. If you don't kind of put kind of custom messages in, you could give a lot of information to hackers. It could give them an easier way in. I've kind of seen, if you can see in my tabs about some bits and pieces, OWASP have a big thing on error handling, and it does mention kind of, you know, hackers can find out kind of versions of things, like what you're using, which is all really helpful information for them. It's used quite a lot in the recon phase of the hacking cycle, so we don't want any weird errors when we're making our site. So with the
Here's
errors,
the balance though, is sometimes I would hear when we're going through that sort of thing, it spills out a really verbose error. It tells you exactly what's gone on, as you say, the version, what's running on it, etc. And sometimes it would even say, contact Jim Smith because he looks after it, which is crazy, right?
Oh,
and then
sometimes.
You go,
oh, sorry.
No, and then you go, okay, well, you could do with paring that back a little bit and just give exactly what you need to know from an internal standpoint, what it means. And then there's a whole debate sometimes around, yeah, but if it doesn't tell us what's wrong, how do we know where to go and try and fix something? Which I think is always an interesting way to look at it, because there should be other analytics, there should be other log events that are captured to help with that. Go on, Mel, sorry.
No, it's fine. That's a good point. I was going to say, if you think about it as well, quite a common one that we see every day on login screens is the password field. So if you put an incorrect password in, obviously you'd expect to get the generic something's wrong. Hopefully it would say, you know, it wouldn't be specific, the password specifically wrong, because that would be the first hint to a hacker. They'd be like, oh great, I've got someone's email address and I just need to crack the password now, which would be quite easy. But I have seen some sites where if you put a password in wrong, it's kind of like, it's almost giving people hints. It's like, oh, the password has to be this long and the password has to have these characters, and that's not even at the start of creating a password. That's literally just on a page like this and incorrectly putting a password in, and it's giving people all these hints. And to a hacker or a threat actor, I should start using the proper terminology, they'd be like, great, now I know the kind of parameters of what the password is going to be. So that will narrow down this work. So yeah, error handling, it might seem not really bothered about it, but it does give quite a lot of information, especially in the early phases of people just messing on a web page, just playing around, and you don't want that in your life. So we'll try and bring in, go away Kaspersky, don't judge me about using Kaspersky. So we like to put this on and just any password, and we'll see if it does it. And it tells you straight away when you've solved a challenge, so you don't have to go back to the scoreboard and check. Obviously here we've got an error code which gives you nothing really. We might think it gives us nothing, but it kind of hints that the backend can't even deal with this request and it has no idea what's going on with it. So that would be, well, this isn't set up very well. It's probably susceptible to a lot of site scripting. I'm gonna try and find, there it is, dev tools, see if it tells us anything in there, and then it's got an internal server error. So that's just, it's like, what the hell? That's first challenge. It's very quick and it's very easy, but if you imagine if this was real life and someone could do that on your site, it would give them quite a good foothold they might start getting a little bit more creative over what they want to put in that email and password field. Do a little bit of 1 = 1, etc., maybe to get into back to your database. So always important to sort out your errors. Let's see. The next one we were going to do, you might as well read it so I don't have to remember. So we're going to do the depreciated interface. So use a depreciated PHP interface. That was not properly shut down. This is important, I guess, for businesses. You don't want to leave things kind of any legacy bits and pieces in the back end of your code, just milling around. When you're closing things off, moving systems, you really do have to check that everything's nice and tidy, because anything that's found, people just take advantage. This is quite an interesting one. So for this one, I'm just wondering if it's here. It was on. So I did have to have some help with this one, and I did read the write-up. There's so many write-ups. Pretty cool. It's
a good shout from Alice there. You've got to design the toy for a target audience.
Yeah, you do. Right, let's get rid of that because that's going to distract me and I'm going to think that we've done it. So this is a good one for B2B. Obviously a normal kind of complaint form. You can upload things to the complaint form. There's kind of no capture or anything. Obviously I'm not logged in. So in theory, I could upload whatever I wanted here if I really wanted to. You'd hope that they maybe put some kind of input validation on, so they might only want certain file types to be uploaded, so text, PDF, whatever, relatively safe things. But I get the feeling it's probably not going to work that way for the Juice Shop. So let's see. So for this one, we'll just make...
Yeah, I guess what would happen is when you go and upload something as you're going to, and it gets written to a database or file shared, depending on how it's configured at the back end. So essentially you could upload a malicious file, some dodgy macros, even just a malware file. And unless you've got that, as you say, the validation or type of file tied down, then not in a great space. And secondly, is it going to scan when it gets on the other side? So I guess that's what you're gonna show now, yeah?
Yeah, hopefully.
No pressure.
So let's find it. Not sure why it would let me upload games as well. That's interesting. And then we'll just do test, because it does actually make you fill in the message there. Like that's going to stop anyone. Someone could still message haha, I guess, if you really wanted to. So we've submitted it and it's gone. So again, it's another one that you kind of like, oh, that's quite simple. How did I solve this challenge? And it's just kind of demonstrating that there's no input validation on this website at all. So as you can imagine, people are crafting all sorts of crafty files. Logic bombs, quite good ones, I guess, for this. You could submit something and then it could literally just wait. So even if there's someone monitoring on the back end all of the files that they receive, they might not even spot, they might spot the file and the file name. It could be a nice file name kind of called, oh, complaint, help me. And then they'll open it, nothing will happen. They'll be like, oh, nice and safe. And then 6 months' time, something happens and the logic bomb will trigger and then we're all in bother. So not good. And I guess that was kind of as much as we had for the demos. It was quite short and these were quite simple, but I think it is important to show that we've managed to do two things. Security misconfiguration, where we could have uploaded very malicious files. We could have got information from error messages And I haven't used any tooling. This is literally just everything in browser that Google Chrome gives me, and what other browsers will give you. So it does show that you don't have to be like kind of 10-year experienced hacker to cause bother. You can literally just Google a few things and use the tools that you've got. So my opinion, the simplest demos can be quite powerful. It just shows how easy it is to take advantage of things, especially newer websites. You could have a lot of people in lockdown had started their own businesses. They might want to have a bash of creating their own websites. They might not be very technically advanced. They might not know anyone in security that can help them. And you can just imagine, I think I did it kind of once to show someone who I knew had opened a business, and she was kind of just using WordPress. And I was like, you can literally in WordPress just do /admin and it'll take me to your login page. And then like, you've got a Facebook store. I can see your email address in Facebook. I can probably have a guess of what your password is. And then there we go. I'm into your store, like causing havoc. I could shut the whole thing down. So it does happen in real life. Not sure if I should have shouted WordPress all over the way and they might sue us. Or maybe not. I don't know. It's their own fault.
I think no. I think no.
I think they'll be all right. But yeah, hopefully it's been informative. For
absolutely. And I think that one that you've just gone through there quite nicely probably leads into number 7 around cross-site scripting as well, which you could have used that way. Also, you can think about buffer overflow, etc. There's a whole host of things that you could exercise quite nicely on that sort of page. So it's really good. Thank you, Mel.
All right, I'll stop. There we go.
Good stuff. Right, I'll get back to you sharing screen. How are we doing for time?
We're doing well, actually. We're totally on time. It's amazing.
Good stuff.
Never happens.
I don't mind if people want a break, or does anyone want a break, or just carry on? We've got half an hour left.
I'm good to continue if that fits in. Everyone else okay with that?
Do say in the chat if you really want a break. We don't mind.
Good, continue. Lovely stuff. Thumbs up. Lovely. On we go. So, Kimberly. Oh, Alice, 5 minutes. Oh, good. What we're thinking? 5 minutes or good to continue?
Can I have a couple of minutes? Should we just do that? Okay, hello. So I'm Kimberly Hendry as part of the Northeast Ladies Hacker Society and a cybersecurity engineer at thatsecurity.company. And so I'm going to do this demo showing AWS and a bit of info about security misconfiguration. So I thought I'd just put these in because they seem to be quite interchangeable words. So locking down, hardening, securing. It's all quite similar things that we're talking about, but you just might hear people saying it. So what we'll do today is show sort of how to avoid a bit of misconfiguration in the cloud, launch an instance using it as a free AWS account and using the CIS controls, just showing you like good practice for cloud security. And also the same as Juice Shop, everything here is free. I had to put my card details in to create the AWS account, but all the instances I'll build will be free. And also you can freely download the CIS controls, the benchmarks as well. So yeah, just a little bit to start with about cloud security. I think obviously it's very popular and lots of people think of it as being like either like super safe and it's elastic and all this, but it's a good reminder that you are still responsible for security in the cloud, whereas the provider is responsible for the security of the cloud. So you are responsible for what you put up there. And I'm sure Dee Dee knows all the rules and regulations about it as well. So yeah, so I just thought I'd put in a few key things that we often talk about as like key ways of securing your data in the cloud. So using API keys, monitoring, auditing what's in there, making sure it's encrypted, and also you can run health checks to find any misconfigurations as well. So what I'm going to use is sort of to guide me are these CIS controls, and the do ones, like I say, it's free to download, and there's lots of specific ones. You can get ones for like Linux machines or GCP, the AWS one here, and it's got like a nice clear guide of sort of best practice, and can be applied to like different levels of maturity for companies as well. So have sort of different advice. So if you wanted to download these benchmarks, just search for CIS controls and you sort of put your details in and you can download them. But again, I think they're just a good thing to practice with or read and give you some good advice. So yeah, and the CIS controls cover all the key settings for the cloud. So covers IAM, so identity and access management, best practice for storing your data in there, logging, monitoring, and networking. And so for the demo, I'm going to just set up like a launch an instance, just like a server, and then show you how to configure the security groups, which then matches to CIS control 5.2, and then talk about the importance of naming conventions, and then also about password policies as well, and that maps to some CIS controls, but also there's some info in AWS about it as well. So I'll just share different page. So can you see my console? Yeah, yeah, cool. Just move this on. Okay, so this is me logged into AWS, and it's got the different services they do here. There's lots here, but the ones today I'll be looking at would be so EC2. So like it says there, virtual servers in the cloud. So this is a way for you to build virtual servers and sort of rent it from them. But like I say, everything we'll do here will just be on the free tier stuff. So I'd open up instances. And then here there's a few that I was sort of looking at before, but you just go to the right and click launch instance. And then here's a few different sort of, I guess you call them templates. So call them Amazon Machine Images, AMIs, but so templates of different types of computers that you want to build. And then here on the left, if you click free tier only, these are all the free ones that you can just play around with. And when you hear about people saying like, build them and burn them, that's this kind of thing. You can just build it and then destroy it if it's not worked and just play around. So I'll just use the top one, this so a Linux machine, and then you just select it. And then instance type, so sort of like what hardware you want, so how many virtual CPUs, how much memory, storage. But this is just going to be, again, this is like a free one, so I'm just going to stick to this T2 micro. And then next, review and launch. So if you were building it and it was in like dev and you had lots of, want to put in like a specific virtual private cloud, obviously you'd edit it all a lot more. But for this, I'm not going to show you that, but you could literally just do that and then click launch and it'll be built and it'll start processing it. But actually it already would show you a bit of a warning saying you need to check your security, saying it's open to the world. So showing you how all the ports are open. So in AWS, they have a thing called security groups, which, like I said, goes back to CIS control 5.2. And so here you can edit the security groups. So on the right here. So at the moment, the only thing that's open, so it's completely open, as in you can SSH, so port 22 is open, and it's open to anywhere, like any IP can try and SSH onto it. So this would be sort of like a bit of hardening. So we can change the rules around. If you had a static IP that you're coming from, you would type it in there and just only allow that IP or a subnet to SSH onto this instance. And so companies would set up their own security groups, and they can put different machines into different ones as well. So I'll just have a look. So if you wanted to add a rule here, the CIS one talks about sort of remote desktop access. Oh, someone's trying to get in, I'll just let them in.
I've let them in, Kimberly, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it talks about remote desktop access and locking down your ports. So 22 for SSH and 3389 for remote desktop protocol. So we can click on that and do it on here. There's RDP. So you could allow it only from, again, a certain IP. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to show you just like the examples of it. So yeah, so this is a way of sort of like hardening it and making sure it's configured in a safe way, sort of building a virtual firewall and only opening certain ports. So it's controlling like the incoming and outgoing traffic. And so the rules you add are permissive. So it's sort of, you're adding permissions and opening up the ports. You can't create things to block or deny things in these security groups, but you're denying stuff by only opening certain things, if that makes sense. So that's how you control access and filter your traffic. And also with AWS, their instances are stateful. So if you're allowing something to go out, it'll then open it up to come back in as well. So like the response to come back in, regardless of your inbound rules. So that's that there. So it's still saying a warning because I've left it open to the world, but obviously you would lock it down. So I'd review it and launch. So click launch. And so this is a bit of public keys. So a bit of like asymmetric encryption. So where, like it says there, they store on the instance the public key, and you would download your own private key. And then that's a secure way to SSH onto the instance. And if you don't already have one, you can create a key now. But just for quickness, I won't do it. And they don't advise this at all. They don't like it if you do this. But like I say, it's just a demo. So yeah, so it's saying it's been launched. So it's in a pending state, so it's just trying to launch. So I'll take this filter off. So there's two there already, but as you can see, it's just launched and there's no name there. It would just launch with an instance ID, and it'll eventually give it, there we go, like a public IP. So that brings on to like the naming conventions, why it's important to name things and have a good strong naming convention. So you know what's in development, what's in production, what you need to put into different security groups, because again, that's part of, could be misconfiguration if things aren't named correctly. And I've seen it myself in different companies where they've not been named very well and it's very unclear. That can cause problems. So that's another thing from the CIS controls. So yeah, so it's running, so I'd rename it to say like demo or something like that. Okay, so at least you can clearly see where it is. And so then the other one, just to add a little bit more security to it, it's up there running now. but it's only open to SSH onto it. Would be if you go into identity and access management. And so this maps to CIS controls 1.9, where it says about the strength of your passwords and your password policies. AWS already have this best practice section and some good advice, but then CIS controls, I guess, take it a step further, and they expect sort of like stronger controls. But it's good to hear even the best practices of things like grant least privilege access and enable multi-factor authentication, rotating your credentials. That's a good advice there. So if you were to go into account settings, and then here already you can see the password policy, and it's set to be already at minimum of password length 8 characters, and then mixture of characters here, and can't be identical to your name or your email address. Whereas the CIS controls say you should make it a bit longer. So I think is it 14 characters? Yeah, they say it should be at least 14 characters. So you can edit them here. So change it to at least 14 characters. They also advise you don't allow password reuse, which is allowed because it's not been ticked. So again, you could click this and enable that and save it. And then your policy, you can then put it into like different user groups and put this policy out, make sure anyone who, all the new users that you add and create in the system have this policy as well. So that's that there. But so look, yeah, the instance is still there. So I'll just close it down. But yeah, that was it really. That's the main things for that. Just a little show of like what you can do for free and practice in AWS. And then once you finish with it, you can just stop it and then terminate it. We don't want to. So yeah, that's it from me.
Brilliant, thanks for that.
Okay.
Any questions for Kimberly before we move on to the general Q&A, which is mainly going to be focused around, yeah, show that regretful face. For not understanding why Kimberly does have opinions, and that's fine, freedom of speech, but she's declared she doesn't appreciate Beyonce. That was really good. Thanks for that, Kimberly. There's a few bits that I think, again, circle back to what we covered in the previous sections around, it's the easy things, isn't it, that you need to just make sure you keep an eye on and get right. Otherwise it can be terribly wrong. So just like you were saying there on the naming of the instances, have you seen any that have been spectacularly awful just simply because it's been called, I don't know, demo 1 or prod 1 or something like that?
It's more just not named, and which
Obviously.
is just, yeah, which is so stressful to look at. Yeah, or just, yeah, like people using their own name for things, and for lots of them, or their own like numbering system, and yeah, it's just makes people's life harder, doesn't it, really? So, and the whole thing, like, if you don't know what's there, how can you protect it? So yeah, that I've not seen too many horror stories, but mainly just people forgetting to name them, and there's a big massive list of these instances, and it's like, oh well, great, let's comb through them, what do they do, that kind of thing. So that is important. But I think I just want to reiterate about how CIS benchmark, you can download that for free and look through it. There's lots of good advice, and then you can play around on AWS for free, a bit like the Juice Shop one, that's free as well, so like accessible to people.
Brilliant, that's the best kind, right? There's also other templates you can use, isn't it, in AWS, like NIST and things like that? Yes,
I've not got much experience in that, but I know you're a bit of a fan of.
Love a bit of NIST. But it's good, it's great that that's kind of out of the box. Again, when you're looking at the difference between on-prem versus cloud, then it just shows you how beautifully cloud can run, but also I guess how spectacularly wrong it could be if you were to, as you say, promote the wrong instance because of poor naming convention. It's really, really easy bread and butter stuff, but so easy to get wrong too.
Well, definitely with the security groups as well. We've seen stuff where the security groups seem quite tight, but actually just an instance has been put into the wrong one quite easily, and it's been far too open and it's got a bit hammered on the internet. So that's why it is important to like review things and check for misconfigurations before. You don't want to just find out something's not configured right by a breach, do you really? I guess you want to find out before then. No. That's not the ideal.
No, it's really not, but it does get you a lot of budget. Good points. I don't know what the latest stat is actually on if you leave something open on the internet these days. How long does it take before it's found and then tried at least to be exploited? It used to be something like 38 seconds, which is crazy. So just to kind of follow your point up of don't find out from a breach, it can happen that quick. And if you use, say, the Lockheed Martin kill chain, and you look at the sort of time it takes, it can be a very long time between that 30 odd seconds versus the breach being discovered. So
yeah, and I guess that's the whole like thing of like least privilege for access and stuff. So if someone does get in, you don't want them just to have admin rights straight away, do you? You want to have good identity and access management, don't you? And separate into different user groups, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm just wondering if anyone's willing to share any, oh my God, I can't believe this happened, or I misconfigured something, and not obviously shared names, times or dates, but I'm sure we've all been there or read something where you're like, wow, that was quite amazing. Got a couple of questions in there. Eliza, what's your opinion on CloudTrail or CloudWatch? Some companies don't enable them.
I'm trying to think. Last time I was speaking to someone who didn't enable them is because they were quite overwhelmed with notifications and there was no one there to deal with them. And I guess if you've got a small InfoSec team, then it'd be quite tricky, wouldn't it? So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's in cost as well. If budget's tight as well, it's a tricky thing, isn't it? Really, I guess, like you're saying, the balance of usability and safety. It's like this as well, isn't it? The balance of like manpower to check these things. So I guess the more you can automate things, the better. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if they're there, try and turn them on. But if you're going to turn them on, there's no one going to look at the notifications. Then I don't know if it's
a really tough one, that, isn't it? I remember thinking of another old breach, Target, for example. When they had the mega breach, whenever that was now, quite a few years back, they had all the alerts turned on and no one was looking at them. And I remember reading it at the time as a security analyst thinking, God, that could easily be us, on the basis that you maybe don't have the staff to review them, or they're not tuned, or it just becomes overwhelming noise. But if they're not being captured somewhere, even if they're not alerting, then it's something you can go back on. So enabling audit is always really important. But then on the flip side, CloudWatch, CloudTrail, etc., there's always a bit of a question from me on if you've got multiple cloud instances, like you touched on before, you could have OCI, you could have GCP, AWS, Azure. They've all got their own little versions of various monitoring devices or controls, etc. So how do you keep on top of that? So I would say maybe you don't enable those native controls, but you have something that, I don't know, just thinking about a product that I've used before, Dome 9, for example, where it collates everything into one place, so it's easier to manage. Okay. But it's tough, isn't it? Because some of the stuff's free. Does it make it easier? But have you got multiple teams monitoring multiple areas? Yeah, tough balance.
It is, but funny you say that, because it just makes you think, well, So when I work with Pocket Seam, so it's like a cross-platform seam that it is good for on-prem and cloud and different cloud environments. So you need something that's cross-platform then if you have different cloud environments. But I guess if you just have the one and you've just got AWS, if possible, turn on CloudTrail and CloudWatch. But if you're cross-platform, then that is a bit more tricky. Come and speak to me then if that's your problem.
Sales pitch. We are not vendor agnostic. Just for anyone wondering. Just having a look at the questions there. That was a good one. Thanks, Eliza. Next, we have a comment from Alice. Hackers are curious beasts. Threat actors are tenacious. So you've just got to keep in mind what you're flashing in the web, as seen on Showdown. And exactly back to that misconfiguration. That's your Google for misconfiguration, really. Good stuff. Alice has been chatty, good stuff. Also a good perspective on what's common. Pegasus, tools like that aren't uncommon, and so far the human is the weakest link. Always a good debate point, that, isn't it? Training your colleagues and fostering good security culture. I find exploiting competitiveness often helps, and it's half the battle at least. Yeah, totally. There's always a bit of a debate, isn't there, about do you weaponize it? Do you make it gamification? Do you point the finger of blame? Do you use it as a training? And I think it depends on the culture of the company what the right thing to do is. It'll be interesting to hear all of your thoughts on what you've seen and heard, and anyone else that's on the call.
I think, tooling could only do so much. You can only get so many alerts. But sometimes all it does is take one little click by one person and then that's it. Game over. I'm very all for user awareness. I think in companies people think it's a bit boring. I don't know why people don't make it more interactive, a bit more exciting, more relatable, I guess. I guess when you join a company, if you're not in our kind of area, and you just see these, don't click on links, don't do this, and you're like, yeah, okay, cool. When it could be a bit more interactive, talking about like social media, Facebook and stuff. Well, imagine this, and then relate it to work.
No, absolutely, because if you take it home with you, you can bring it to work, can't you?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's spot on. Target audience is really important. I remember designing a security awareness week, and one of our really senior members of the team went, we really need to talk about APT. Okay, so make that real to everyone in the business. Is that top of their priorities? Actually, no, we need to think about the sort of things they're interacting with. Some people will lap up a bit of the James Bond story type stuff, but in reality, it's going to be, it's not Janice in accounts again, is it? Janice in accounts who just plows through everything she needs to do. There's all sorts of PDFs coming in. Does she trust them? Maybe. How does she know when not to trust them? She doesn't know. Let's give her some training rather than tell her what the Russians are up to. Kind of makes no sense.
Yeah, like you say, like practical stuff, practical advice, and make it relatable. Because somebody wrote about Showdown, thinking back, it was a demo at a tech conference, a demo of Showdown that totally got me hooked, especially being like a mother, and you hear about like all the IoT devices and how they're vulnerable, about like baby monitors and those Ring things on front doors, and then showing like Showdown searching for stuff, and those things being still with the default credentials, that really like struck a chord, like a personal chord with me, like, oh gosh, this is real, this is scary, especially it was a phishing example as well, of like spoofing a website. So I think if you can bring it back to something iOS in this chat, if you can bring it back to something real, like you say, practical, like things people care about. I talked to my niece and her friends about their like TikTok accounts and Instagram accounts, because like that's important to them, and try and explain to them about MFA and strong passwords, like password not just being the name and all this, because like it's things that are important to people. Yes, on Facebook, yes.
Absolutely, and yeah, that's a good one, Kate. It's always the things that impact you, that really get you hooked into these things. So yeah, Nest, being hooked, wow, hack draw there, wow. Yeah, I bet you that was interesting. Good stuff. Any more?
I've still got a Nest in its box and then take it out. I'm like, oh, I got it. Like, I got it for free, and then I was like, I don't trust this.
Yeah, that little button at the bottom, does it really work? Yeah, interesting one. Yeah, that's a good shout actually. Try and hack Nest. Yeah, there you go. That's what you can use it for, Mel.
Next meetup, that'd be a demo on that.
Exactly what it could be. Good stuff. Right. Next question that's just come through privately. Just trying to read that there. Kimberly, why do you not love Beyonce like everyone else? That was from Anonymous. So they're aware how sensitive the issue is.
Oh no, I don't love her. I just don't. I'm not fussed. That's all it really is.
No, it doesn't work like that.
No, I think she's amazing. I mean, I wanted to be the queen of the world. But I just mean, I don't really listen to that much music. I just listen to what I listened to when I was in my 20s, like Arctic Monkeys and stuff, and all kids music. So that's all it was really.
It's like Beyonce, don't they?
You know what? Maybe I should play them Beyonce and get them into it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, converted me.
Beyonce does not stink. Eliza, can we remove this person from this centre? No, I'm not even going to mention his name.
Who?
That man that we don't like.
Oh my god. All right, okay.
We can't talk about him. Yeah, definitely not having that. All right, she stinks like coffee. Yes, she probably does like the nicest coffee. That's all right, Alice. Good call. Good call. A lot. It's topical. Just have a look on my phone. It's now trended on Twitter. Why does Kimberly not love Beyonce? So that's interesting. But there we go. Okay. Any more questions? Been a good old sesh.
Do you want to share your slides at the end? Because we've got a few little things to mention for
we do
coming up stuff, haven't we?
Just bringing that up now.
I need to get a new photo as well. All my photos are from like 15 years ago.
Mel found one of what did you call us from? It was like 2014 or something. She was like, "Who's this baby?"
That was so funny.
I didn't even think I'd changed that much, but hey, thanks for pointing that out, Mel.
It's just like something that like it just on my screen. I was like, "Hello, who's this?
Who's that whippersnapper?" Good stuff. Cool. This brings us to a close. Kimberly, over to you.
Yeah, just to say, so our next planned chapter meeting will be on the 26th of August, and that's going to be Cheltenham, and they're running a summer software special. So sounds very exciting. So keep an eye out on all the social media, and we'll share the link to sign up for that. Yeah, I don't think we don't have any new chapters that have joined recently, but I'm sure there's a couple in the feelers and getting set up. But yeah, I guess if you know anyone who wants to set one up, let us know. We're all volunteers, aren't we? So and then yes, we'll put the links in. I think we've got links here, but we'll put them in Slack as well. That's that security company doing some junior SOC analyst training, so like practical training, and you get a discount for being an LHS member. So I'll find the link for that. And also we're supported as well by Tech Talent Academy, and they're doing some more cyber training courses as well. So I'll share the details for their website, and if there's no funded ones near you, just send them a message and say how you're a member of LHS, and I'm sure they'll see what they can do. Quite a few of us have took their courses, and they're really good quality, and you learn lots from them. So I'll put the links in the chat here. But also, yeah, keep an eye on Slack, and we'll keep sharing stuff in Slack as well, any training opportunities. So if anyone on the call isn't a member of Slack and like our private Slack channel, just message us on Meetup or Twitter or anything, and we'll add you to it. And there's always lots of opportunity to share there, aren't there?
Absolutely. So plenty to get involved with. And yeah, if anyone thinks, do you know what, LHS girls tonight have been amazing, but I reckon I could do it better, then join in, put yourself forward to do a talk. And if you think that there's a lack of representation in wherever you are from, then yeah, why not create a chapter? We've got our glorious leader on the call, Eliza, which I'm sure she will inspire you to do exactly what we've done tonight and more. So yeah, quite a busy period. We'll be doing our next event in the next couple of months, so watch out for a new date for that. Eliza was a bit shy here. Well, there you go, it's confirmed. Also, there's a few bits that Kimberly's been getting her face across, all sorts of events, particularly London Tech Ladies. Do you want to give a little update on that one?
Oh yeah, that's on YouTube as well, so we'll put the thing on. That was a really good one. That was all about people from a non-technical background retraining in tech and some advice. So there was, I think, like a psychology student now working in usability and things like that, and saying how I worked in education for years and then retrained. So yeah, there's some they talked about like non-technical roles in tech as well. So yeah, I'll share that, the YouTube link for that, because I put in loads of like practical things, like good courses to do. So yeah, that's been going on as well. Brilliant, good stuff.
Cool. Well, I think that takes us slightly over time, but it's been awesome. So thank you very much for joining in. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Mel. And thank you, everyone, for coming along and contributing. That's what makes a good night, I reckon. So enjoy the new job title, Inspiring Bitch. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Have that. Enjoy the rest of the sunny sunshine. Don't get too burnt, and have an awesome rest of the evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next event. Thank you very much, girls. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye for now.